So, how to step into your God/goddess self when taking action towards things that may be uncomfortable or things that you don't want to do but know you need to do? This is the video for that. Okay, so I've come to this realization that when we have things that we know we need to do, um, or different dedications that we know we have to do towards ourselves or towards a project or towards something that will give us long-term gratification or will bring us success, the steps towards that path can be quite difficult simply because it takes maybe a sacrifice, and that sacrifice may be comfort. That sacrifice may be what temporary satisfaction you may receive from doing something else. And so I want to talk about how to tap into your God version of yourself when doing those things that you know you need to do, those goals that you need to do. So the God version of yourself, the goddess version of yourself, is that version of yourself that embraces pain, that embraces the pain of increase, the pain of expansion rather than the pain of suffering and degrading who you are because we simply don't want to take actions towards becoming who we want to be. And your God self is consistently pushing you towards that version of yourself that you know is true to you and has substance to you. Your soul, the godliest version of yourself, is that version of you that says, you know what, I know this is hard, I know this is difficult, but I'm so empowered to do it. The fact that this is a challenge turns me on. That's my mindset. The fact that some things are challenging literally gives me this sense of like empowerment, because once I'm done or once I accomplish that goal, I really feel such a level of appreciation and relief. And then I look at myself completely different in the mirror because I don't no longer view myself as a person who have some goals in my mind and no longer can achieve it due to how I'm feeling currently, but I view myself as inspirational. You view yourself differently when you accomplish those goals that you have within your mind that may be challenging. I believe that challenges bring out the greatest version of ourselves. When we're equipped, I feel like when you go through a challenge in life, it can be direct reflection of who you are in that moment. So the challenges that you have in your life, you're equipped to be able to overcome it. Even if you feel like right now I'm not at that level. It's crazy how I look at the high priestess card as I say that. It's crazy how I look at that because the high priestess card to me simply resembles that sacred version of yourself. The subconscious mind, who you really are within your divine being, that trust within yourself, sensitivity, purity, high morals. So that energy within itself is crazy that I looked at that. That's like your highest version of yourself on earth. That's like a very intuitional version of yourself, very knowledgeable version of yourself here on earth. And that version of yourself, I feel like in order to acquire wisdom and knowledge, or to choose wisdom and knowledge, is to also sacrifice ignorance. Okay, so ignorance give us comfort in some ways. Ignorance can give us comfort in some ways because what we don't know, we won't have to do. So if you don't know, if you're ignorant towards what it would take to be excellent, or even the idea of excellence, then you won't have to do anything. But for me, the Empress card represents that as you level up in life, as you conquer in life, there'll be a new version of yourself that is expected. Okay, so the version of yourself that you are today can handle the resources that you have now, can handle the empowerment that you have right here, right now. But in order to elevate, you have to be less tolerant to your own BS. You have to be less tolerant towards the actions that you take or the mindset that you have right now currently. So I believe that as we elevate, you cannot bring that same mindset that you had within yourself previously towards these new levels. I believe that it's not just a physical evolution, it's a spiritual evolution, it's a mental evolution, it's a soul evolution that is required of you before you reach something new or before you break through a certain cycle that you're in. So back rewiring this or sowing everything back into conclusion, it's basically your God self is that version of yourself that embraces pain, that embraces sacrifice, that embraces getting their hands dirty in order to create something. Getting that, it's like sculpting your reality. And in that moment of sculpting it, you don't really see the end goal. You may see the end goal, but you're tired. Maybe like, oh, I've been sculpting this for a few weeks now. I'm ready for this to finally be finished. But I believe we have to believe in the process. No matter how messy it gets, no matter how it looks on the outside, no matter what it may seem right there in that moment, this is leading up to something greater. This is leading up to something finished. This is leading up to something that I can look back on and say, that's why I had to go through woo. That's why I experienced this, that, and the third, because this is leading up to something much greater. And so my mindset, in some ways, in a lot of ways, how I conquer the ignorance within, or I would even say the darkness within, or that version of myself that just wants to pull me back towards limitation, is I have to break through with light. I have to break through with my own inner light, because sometimes you can feel so low. Sometimes you can feel so limited. Sometimes you can feel down and your spirit is like this. But in order to take a certain action, your spirit got to be up here. In order to get back into that flow in who you are, maybe you're a creator or a creatress. And when you're creating from a certain headspace. You're not creating just physically with your head, with your hands. You're creating with your mind. You're creating with your spirit and your soul. Before this thing even comes into physical reality, you have to see things in your mind. But in order to even do that, your mind has to be in a great space. Your mind has to be in a space of excellence, godliness. It's called, sometimes it's called transmutation, alchemy. So even how artists tend to succeed when it comes to making and creating things is sometimes emotions can be so stuck within you that no matter what optimistic talk you give yourself, you just feel these emotions and there's nothing you can, right there in that moment. Maybe you talk yourself out of it later. This is just how you feel. But the power of the artist is really the power of the alchemist, because the artist creates from this space and expresses from this space, knowing that other people in the world may not resonate to this today, but maybe resonate to this 10 years later, a day later, 2 days later. And this is how we make fortunes off of even emotions of sadness, off of emotions that try to deprive us of our happiness, off of emotions that we have programmed within ourselves, these insecurities that we have within ourselves, or this mindset. Really, it is just a mindset. And once we can learn to master the mindset, no matter how long it takes, it may not be overnight. We can learn to master the mindset in our heart, in our emotions. We can ascend on every level. There will be less obstacles. Okay, there will be less pullbacks. There will be less shortcomings. There will be less, oh man, like I could have made it, but I didn't. That's the power of your mind and your spirit and your heart. So one thing that I feel like we're being called now is to master your mindset and your heart. And it's always been about that. But I think that it's really becoming super apparent and super in your face and super like extremely, it's like extreme reflection on our souls. All right. And in order to stop experiencing the pain that you're feeling right now, that pain is really coming from ignorance. And that pain, that suffering that you're feeling is really coming from not knowing, not just not knowing, but the darkness that's within you, the darkness that's within your mind, and the insecurities that you have within yourself that may not have been revealed until now. This is the subconscious world. And I think that we're called to sort out all of the BS through and just literally clean up everything within ourselves mentally, spiritually, and emotionally as much as we can. You may not can clean yourself up. You may not can clean yourself emotionally within one day. But if you can take that time, which will pay off infinite in your life and in your spirit, and even in next lifetimes, if we can take the time to cleanse our spirit, or even not even cleanse it out, just look at it. Look at the different things that we are experiencing within in our limitations. or where we may not be excellent at just yet, and claim excellence will be there. Claim, see it right now, even in those moments of darkness. See it right now that excellence will be in your spirit. Maybe a month from now, maybe 2 months from now, maybe a year from now. But excellence will be in this area in my life. Excellence will be here, and I see it now. I dedicate myself to practicing the art of excellence on all aspects until I perfect the craft of my being. Anyways, I really think this is solid, family. We're all elevating. We're all elevating. I don't want you to think there's not one person in the universe that's not on that process of evolution. Because we live in a world where it's either you evolve or devolve. There is no in between. There is no stagnation. There's only evolution and decrease. Okay? And God is consistently wanting us to increase. That's why the more we exist on this planet, the more human evolution will occur, no matter what. No matter what. There will be nothing but solutions to every problem. That's all we do is solve problems as human beings. And so the greatest problem we can solve is within ourselves. Anyways, I thank y'all so much, Rose family. Please follow us on Instagram if you're watching from YouTube. If you're watching from Instagram, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Rose Family X. And I really would, I just really want to see y'all winning in life. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Follow us on both platforms, yes, and Threads. Anyway, see you later. Peace.